Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Pitney Bowes webinar Beyond the 2021 Return Season, How to Create a Positive Customer Shopping Experience. I am Aaron, your host. Your featured speakers are Rick Hernandez and Justin Kramer. So now to introduce our speakers, Rick Hernandez is Vice President of Business Development and Commercial Innovation for Pitney Bowes Global E-Commerce. Rick has over 20 years of experience in technology, shipping, and logistics, having worked at successful startups that were acquired by Infor, Stamps.com, Newell Rubbermaid, and SunGard. Rick has 8 patents and was previously head of research and development, customer service, and business development at Indicia. Rick graduated from Stanford University and resides in Half Moon Bay, California, where he lives with his wife and kids, and where he serves as a planning commissioner. Justin Kramer is co-founder and head of sales for ProShip, the top enterprise shipping platform that executes billions of compliant, high-speed shipping labels on behalf of its customers that include Macy's, QVC, Kohl's, and many, many more. So that wraps up my introduction. Justin, I now hand things over to you to begin.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so today we're going to start with the results of a poll that that Pitney Bowes has put together. And with that, let me go ahead and bring in my co-star today, Rick Hernandez. Go ahead, Rick.
Hey, Justin. Hey, Aaron. It is, in fact, a beautiful day. Greetings from Half Moon Bay. So one of the things that we've been working on for many years, we've been doing surveys of consumers, and we typically do this on an annual basis. We've been doing this for the past 8 years through our annual global online shopping study. This year, with public health, culture, politics, and economics all intersecting and changing like never before, we've created a new mechanism to help our clients listen to and learn from the market in real time. Box Poll allows us to iterate and learn. We can now test ideas and hypotheses quickly. We're reaching out to our clients, asking them to give us questions. So for those of you who are participating today, if you have questions you'd like us to ask our consumers on our weekly survey, we're happy to take those in and incorporate them, and more importantly, share the data. So as we move forward, we're going to be presenting not just here today, but presenting online results from our surveys and the insights that come from them. So one of the things we'd like to do is jump into some of those things and talk about some of the results that we're seeing. So again, this is a national survey. We ask about 2,000 consumers. We're using a company called Morning Consult, a very reputable firm. It does fantastic work. And you know, the intention here is, given how quickly things are changing in the world we're living in, this age of accelerations and all of the crazy things that are going, we wanted to be able to capture feedback from people more quickly. So the first thing I'll say is, the first insight we got from our survey is that we're seeing a dramatic increase in online shopping. And the interesting thing here is the percentage of consumers doing more than half of their shopping online is nearly triple pre-pandemic levels. So when you think about that, like, it's not just that people are shopping more, but the people who do the majority of their shopping has dramatically increased. So with that in mind, Justin, do you have some insight you'd like to share on this one?
Yeah, probably one of the biggest things that retailers have to look at is the fact that they've had the opportunity here to basically advance e-commerce delivery by up to 10 years. And since it's going to be a while, we could possibly see this number increase even further. And a lot of the polls we're seeing don't expect that a whole lot of this is going to retract post-pandemic. So this is maybe where we are now will end up being the new norm, maybe a little lower than this. But I think that, that e-tailers and retailers really need to understand that what they expected to happen in the late 2020s pretty much has been thrust upon us now. And we need to prepare for this to be somewhat of the new norm.
I think that's right. And when I talk to customers of ours like PayPal, one of the things they've shared with us is they've seen 4 years of growth in 4 months, right? And they continue to see this type of exponential growth. It's been fabulous for their business, and it's, other marketplaces who we work with have also seen fantastic growth akin to that, what they would have expected over, 5 to 10 years worth of experience. So it's not just the retailers who are seeing this huge growth, the large marketplaces are also seeing a dramatic increase in their growth. So we have some poll questions we'd like to put in front of you. Not surprisingly, most people plan to spend more time seeing friends and family, even more than pre-pandemic levels. I think we all appreciate our friends and loved ones, and I think there's a lot there. The shopping online, there's a little bit more of that that's going to happen, and then working from home. That's actually been one of the big trends we've seen, is a lot more people are going to be working from home pre-COVID. I think there's definitely a big change happening there. As a 1K traveler, I think I did 1K in the first quarter of this year, 100,000 miles. I can tell you for sure that I'm going to be doing a lot less air travel post-COVID. I won't comment on the drinking heavily. I may change, but Justin, are you going to shake hands with people post-COVID?
The reality is yes. Yeah, you know what, I may wash my hands more, but for somebody in our position, that handshake has been part of business for a long time. Maybe it'll move to a fist bump, but I think that as humans, we the physical touch is very important for us when it comes to contracts, and I think that's kind of why you're seeing over in the first poll why we're going to see our friends and family so much more. We've actually missed them, and when we're able to connect with them over Zoom or Apple FaceTime or things of that nature, we've realized we missed that human contact. So yeah, I'm going to probably wash my hands a little bit more after COVID, and maybe do a little more fist bumping than a good solid handshake. But it's just part of my communication style now. So it's really hard for me. I'm one of those people that it's really hard. I will start to raise a hand out there and then have to pull it back because we're social distancing. But that's just me.
Well, I think we've all had to curtail things. I'm certainly an extrovert, and I got to say, it's been a real adjustment not spending time mingling with people and interacting with folks. So we'll probably shake hands, but we'll have more mocktails and rehab post-pandemic. So
there we go.
So in our survey, we asked this question again to 2,000 consumers, and we gave them quite a few choices, many of the same choices that you saw. And what's interesting to me is there's some similar patterns. What I think is most interesting, the difference between the folks we surveyed here is the strongest sentiment we saw was seeing friends and family. While that's definitely something people plan to do more, cooking at home and wearing a mask during flu season came out as the two top choices, with shopping online being number 3. And the idea here is that, the sentiment we're trying to track is this a permanent change? People are expressing this as something they expect to do more than they did pre-pandemic. So we believe a lot of these changes will be permanent.
Yeah, and Rick, as somebody who's also well-traveled, I'm sure you've noticed that when you leave the American hemisphere, the wearing of masks during flu and allergy season is significantly more prominent. So it's really something that especially we're used to seeing that in Japan and Korea and things of that nature. But I've even seen it in many European countries as well. So yeah, that the use of masks outside of a hospital situation is probably really going to be seen a lot more.
I think that's right. I think and on the other side of things, I think most consumers agree that shaking hands and normal day-to-day interactions are going to be reduced, as is hugging and concerts. I'm glad I got in a few good concerts with my teenagers before the pandemic started. And air travel, I think I saw a thing from United Airlines saying they don't expect travel to get back to something close to normal until 2024. So definitely have some changes to the economy and what's going on there. So Aaron, I think we have another poll question. I think we have a permanent change here. So it's very interesting. I know in my household, things are definitely a little bit out of control in terms of the amount we're spending online. But yeah, it's either more or crazy. What do you think about this, Justin?
I agree. I think the important thing that we're looking at here is that our audience right now is clarifying that, let's face it, online shopping is not only here to stay, but the majority of people will continue to shop online more. It is not a trend that is expected to end at the end of the pandemic. It is, however, an acceleration of what we see as a new norm in the future, where a good portion of shopping occurs online.
I think it becomes really important when you recognize that we've had a fundamental shift in the economy. It becomes even more important for you to manage consumer experiences. So this is something that we've spent a lot of time focusing on, and we're going to spend a little more time digging into that today. So an interesting thing that's come up in our survey results is boredom is getting expensive. Why? Because we asked people, are you shopping because you're bored? What is the top reason why you're shopping more? And the thing that's come out is you're bored. That is, 48% of Gen Zs are saying they're shopping more because they're bored. Millennials, 38%. Boomers and Gen X, a little bit less. But it's people have a little more time on their hands. They're looking for something to do. They're looking for, they're on social media. They're looking at these platforms. And, people feel like, hey, I can get these fancy new shorts with a hidden pocket. I can get these super fancy weightlifting gloves because it's Squattober and I want to make sure I don't have too many calluses. But that's what we're starting to see is people are increasingly shopping because they're bored.
Yeah. And of course, people are shopping for other reasons. They need staples, they need groceries. There are things associated with their lifestyle, or just with let's face it, the fact that we're working from home with cameras and we're being seen from the waist up. People are making sure they've got the appropriate gear for that as well. So there are other reasons that people are shopping, but it is amazing how much boredom is a driver at this point in time.
I think that's right. One of the interesting things that I found when we looked through these survey results, in fact, like my jaw dropped because what we're seeing is, if you look at last year, the trend was you have this 2-day expectation in terms of shipping. And increasingly, you were seeing people had a stronger desire for faster and freer. It was just the mantra that people just kept beating that drum over and over and over again. And what's interesting is post-COVID, people's expectations have shifted a little bit. So now, it used to be, Amazon had this 2-day expectation. We're starting to see 2.3 days is considered fast. 3.9 or about 4 days is considered acceptable. And 6.5 days is now considered slow. This is a shift, right? And it's especially on what's considered fast. It's a big change from how people are perceiving things. I mean, ironically, you're at home more often, and you're a little less stressed out about when your packages arrive.
Yeah, it's just actually a huge reversal. Last year, we started to see indications that next day was going to be considered the new fast. That same day was things that retailers were going to have to be putting in place. They were going to have to leverage all of their stores. Now they should still do that because it obviously reduces most of the shipping down into that fast category as people perceive it now. But what we're not seeing, what we expected to see, was that same day, the rise of Deliv, the rise of Uber Rush, the rise of Postmates and DoorDash and things of that nature. Now they're still doing very well in the food areas, in grocery delivery, in pre-cooked food delivery and things of that nature. But what we're not seeing is what we expected was that rush into retail. So basically a huge change there for us. Rick?
One of the other insights that we saw is that about 2 out of 3 consumers have indicated they're willing to pay more for shipping, for fast shipping. So while expectations have shifted around what's acceptable, if you really need something, 2 out of 3 consumers say, yeah, I'll pay more for fast shipping. And in fact, when we ask consumers, how much would you pay for fast shipping? It varies, but we're seeing a range of between $11 and $12. $11.50 is the average across all of the segments that we surveyed, which to me is a crazy thing to think about, right? Is hey, you know what? I have a free shipping solution. And and maybe in the past, I felt compelled that I had to give my fast shipping solution away as free. But now I can offer more of a deferred service. If it gets there in 4 days, it's acceptable to the customer. But if they really want it fast, this could be an opportunity for you to upgrade people. So if you have an expedited shipping solution that can get there in 2 days, you can charge customers up to $18. You can charge customers up to $11.50. If you're already spending $7 or so to ship something through one method, you should think about, what are the options for me to optimize this? Because it's not just I'm making more money, a little bit more money off of this. I'm getting a better consumer experience. My customers are willing to pay me a little bit more if I get it there a little bit faster. And if you can meet that expectation, you should put that solution on your website. Let your customer opt in. Then it is their choice, and consumers like to take control.
Yeah, and definitely one of the things to look at here is remember, when you're trying to keep that third line there, that fast expedited delivery below $18, this is really where the journey matters. This is really where origin to destination matters. This is where I've got 1 or 2 warehouses around the country really starts to make that more difficult. So we've seen a lot of customers adding line hauls this year, and we've seen a lot of customers that are mobilizing their retail store inventory as well, because both of those mean that now we can use something like a ground shipment that's going to be a zone 2 or zone 3 to get it there next day or 2 days, well inside that fast, that perception of fast for the consumers nowadays, meaning that those consumers are really happy and they continue to come back because they're being delighted rather than just having their expectations met.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, if you're not already doing fulfillment from multiple locations, it's something you should take a look at. You should also look at the mix of carriers you use for the destinations you're sending your parcels to. So these are important things for you to fine tune. And, it may be a little late to do it for this shipping season, but as you think through your plans for 2021, this is an important area for you to put focus in at the beginning of the year. Now, a couple of things, we've seen a drop-off in tracking generally, but there are a few categories where we're seeing consumers track more. And also, given what we just shared with you about, for the most part, people's expectations around delivery are that things can get there a little slower. That is not the case for groceries and essentials. This is the one category of all the categories we surveyed where we saw that consumers want things faster. So same day or next day delivery is considered fast when it comes to groceries. Anything more than that, consumers consider it to be slow. And the online purchase of these items has significantly increased versus pre-pandemic, as well as the amount of tracking that people are doing per order. We're also seeing things like scheduled deliveries, like subscription boxes, are being tracked more frequently as well. So I find that to be interesting. It's actually, we've also seen an increase in subscription boxes, which is, a little bit above the rest of the volume increases we've seen. So it's, people are starting to look at subscription boxes as an alternative, and they're also starting to pay more attention to, hey, when is my subscription of, whatever the renewable is I'm getting, my razors, my toilet paper, any of these types of things. People are looking for those, as well as my bark box orders, because I want to make sure my dog is happy in this COVID environment.
Exactly. Yeah, so this all leads to just a ton of data that's being processed. And of course, well, we've got some of that summed up for you on what is a little bit of an eye chart on this next slide here, but it's definitely definitely some good data to process here.
Yeah, so this is the one thing that I thought was really interesting. So again, we have about 10 categories that we've looked at. And for those of you who are interested, you can follow me on LinkedIn. You can go to, we posted the more detailed results of our box poll. And what I thought was really interesting, all apparel has a pretty consistent result in terms of what's considered fast. There's a little bit of Zoomware, things you need to look good on video. There's a little bit of a sentiment that that needs to be faster, but really there's no major difference between how Zoomware, comfort wear, and clothing for special events is perceived in terms of speed. Also, again, when you look across this category, about 2 out of 3 of customers are willing to pay more for fast shipping. And if it comes to Zoomware, that's an area where people are willing to spend a little bit more. So if you have those nice tops, if you have those nice accessories that are going to show up on the camera, people have indicated a sentiment to pay a little bit more to get those things delivered to them. Conversely, comfort wear, yeah, I'm a little less excited to pay for fast shipping there.
Yeah, I find some interesting things in this, especially for retailers who are doing ship from store. The fact that ship from store is going to get you to more of your customers in zone 2, zone 3, which means you're going to get a delivery within 2 days, 2 days or so from when it actually leaves your facility, actually is very nice, right? Because it means that even if we have a little bit of a fulfillment problem, we're still going to be well inside that acceptable day mark. Again, as we look all the way over to the right-hand side, you see what we were talking about a couple of slides earlier, how customers are still willing to pay for expedited. But if you're using all of your origin sources, if you're using your manufacturers, if you're using your 3PLs, if you're using your own warehouses and your own stores, even if they're paying for extra, you may not have to actually ship it that way. If you have a good solution that's actually telling you when it's going to get there, and you have set an expectation for that customer, you can often meet this with a ground solution, with a residential solution, rather than having to accelerate your cost into an express solution. So that's what I take away from this. This is actually really good news for what has been a lot of upward pressure on costs for retailers. Where they can, if they leverage this data appropriately, be well within acceptable to fast, leveraging all of their origins as necessary. Rick?
Yeah, I want to double click on that because I think it's a very important point. So let me give you a specific example. So if you think about, let's say you got a fulfillment center in Los Angeles, one in Chicago, and one in New York, right? If you use a product like Priority Mail, it averages about 2.7 days delivery nationwide. And even with increased volumes that the Postal Service is seeing, if you're using 3 locations, you can get delivery to most of your customers within 2 days. So it feels like a fast service. And, if you manage that zones 1 through 4, it is effectively going through the Postal Service's ground network, but it gets delivered inside of a 2-day window. And you can use expected delivery dates, data published by the Postal Service. We have expected delivery date data we've captured and analyzed from the billions of transactions that we track annually. And it's a great way to optimize the shipping experience for customers who want that fast experience. And then so you can charge a little bit more. The customer feels like they're getting something even quicker than they would have. And for the long tail, those people who are out in Montana, those people who are in West Virginia, you can go ahead and upgrade to a faster shipping solution for those people so that your consumers in all of those locations have a consistent experience that meets their expectations. And I think that's a really important part, is making sure you meet their expectations. I have a customer who uses a combination of UPS and USPS to get their regionalized volume distributed to customers, right? And they induct it into a UPS facility or a postal facility, and they get next day delivery in many cases, which again is a superior customer experience. And it's something you can do, and the customer feels like, oh my God, I got this great next day service of my office supplies or my Zoomware. What a great experience I'm having. Justin?
Yeah, and again, you just made a huge point there. That is, there is data available, and a good multi-carrier shipping software should allow you to consume that data and should be able to make the decision on it for your company on the lowest cost options that'll meet or exceed that customer's expectation. I think that's really important. This data is available. It's all about having the systems in place that can consume that data and enforce the expectation you have for your customer. So that if they expect fast, 2 days or less, only spend the money on Express when you have to. Otherwise, leverage ground, leverage postal, and leverage postal last mile solutions wherever you can.
The other thing I'll mention is, again, when it comes to expectations across all of the categories we surveyed, expectations around whether service could be slower or faster. On average, people have a sentiment, 16% of customers are more comfortable across the board having the service be slower. But in the retail segments, the entertainment and fitness segments, it's even more dramatic. It's about 22 to 23%. So again, pay attention to what your consumer expectations are, set those expectations, and then make sure that your delivery partners are meeting the expectations your customers have. So one of the other things to think about is, how do you maximize your marketing spend, right? So increasingly, I'm sure everybody on this call is paying attention to this. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they're all sources that people are consuming. Again, we've got a little extra time on our hands. We're not traveling to the office. Maybe we can't see our friends, so you're on social media. 1 out of 3 consumers are waiting for brands to come to them through these social channels. And if you look at what a retailer spends on traditional reach, say on Facebook, you might spend $10 to sell a $200 purse. Now, once you have that customer, on average, the customer will buy things from you 10 times. As long as they have a good experience, that's the average, right? As long as they continue to have a good experience, you're going to be able to get more and more products sold to that customer. But if they have a bad experience because you've set the wrong expectations, you've either given them a product they didn't like, didn't meet the description, or wasn't delivered when you expected it to, then that customer is unlikely to come back to you. So, but if you manage the expectations, you can get that $1,800 in future sales if you're selling an average of a $200 item. So it's important for you to make sure you're investing in the customer experience, you're setting the expectations, you have a good tracking experience so that the customer isn't unhappy with you.
Yeah, that again, I couldn't say it better. Setting customer expectation was pretty much my mantra for 2019. I do want to, however, let our audience know, hey, as we start to near the end of this, now is a great time to go ahead and put questions in the chat window. We will, at the rate we're going, we'll have some time at the end of here to answer some questions, and we want to make sure we give you guys an opportunity and a reminder to put those in place. As our next slide shows, tracking is annoying. Rick, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So it's funny, right? People people aren't having great tracking experiences, right? So let's say, for example, you buy something on, I went to a big warehouse store that gives me great prices on awesome things. I won't mention their name. They have their own tracking site, and I got a mattress I'm looking for, right? I don't know where my mattress is. And so I go to this website and I can't, they say, okay, it's being delivered. Great. And I then click on the link. It's not on their website. Click on another link. It's not on their website. Okay. Now I'm on the private carrier's website and I don't know what's going on. I'm looking at this thing and it said it's been out for delivery for 5 days and they keep updating the results, but I'm having a really bad tracking experience. Now, this is a one-off thing, and I'm going to continue to buy things from this warehouse store, but there are all kinds of bad tracking experiences that people have, and typically it's where the tracking information is missing. Maybe you're bombarding people with too much information. Sometimes that's really frustrating, especially if you just keep sending, too many emails. On the other hand, not enough information, not enough accurate information. It drives people bananas. So customers, 30% said they don't want to talk to a human, right? So, and 40% say they're more annoyed with tracking now than they were before COVID-19. And 16% said it's annoying to track a package through a retailer's website. That same experience I had where I went to my box store and, it's not a great experience, man. And I would like to help them fix that, So again, when you go through this, it creates stress and anxiety. You don't know when your thing is going to be delivered. You don't know, if you need to be home or not, or, it's something that creates an unhappy consumer experience.
Yeah, and I kind of take that last one and I turn it around. That means that there's 84% of people out there that are at least not annoyed by tracking through the retailer's website. And I think your anecdote says if they're gonna go there, it had better work. It had better be their one-stop shop to find out not only where that mattress is, but what about those end tables or that light or the duvet or something of that nature that you ordered 3 days after that. It needs to be a one-stop shop. Otherwise, you're going to get 17% in that annoyed with a retailer's website.
Yeah, and if you think about setting expectations, Amazon probably does the best job of anybody of setting expectations. So, hey, emulate the best, right? Look at what they do, figure out how do I reproduce that type of experience for my customers? Because frankly, they do set expectations, and 90 to 95% of the time, they do a great job of following through with that. Sometimes you buy that hinky looking thing with the unclear delivery date and you're not sure if it's going to show up next week, next month, or next year. But for the most part, when they set an expectation with a clear delivery time frame, 90 to 95% of the time it arrives as you expect it to. So yeah. Think about how that experience works, model from the best.
Yeah, and I think you've got it right there. It's all about building that better tracking experience. It's about not growing that 16%, and as a matter of fact, shrinking that so that your customers do expect they're going to start on your site. And I think we've got a little bit to talk about that, don't we, Rick?
I think so. So think about the tracking and returns experience, right? Many private carriers like to bring you to their website. So that retail, that box store that I was talking about, they have a little bit of tracking information embedded in their site. But when you actually dig into the detail, you end up going to a site that looks very similar to this. It's a UPS branded site. And then you've lost control of the consumer experience. It's now a UPS experience is what's tying the consumer back to you. If you go to an Amazon or a marketplace, they try to avoid these types of experiences. They want to control what's happening and give the consumer a superior experience. Hey, it's going to arrive on this day at this time. And they don't typically do punch outs of third-party websites. And the same thing's true for returns. Instead of sending them to the carrier's website, the best in the business are bringing consumers to their own website and providing a post-purchase experience environment. So the only thing worse than giving your consumer experience to a carrier is putting this hat thinking about if you walk into a store and why would you brand your returns experience in the store with a third-party carrier? You wouldn't. There's no reason for that. You want to control that experience, have it be part of what you manage, you set the expectations, and if a carrier doesn't perform, then you can manage to move the volume to another carrier, somebody who's going to provide a superior returns experience for the customer. Justin?
Yeah, I agree, and really, it's all about putting it all together, right? I think you have a great point here. You don't brand your returns in store with one of the major carriers. Why would you brand your returns on your website with a major carrier? So I think there's definitely better things that companies can do.
And part of what you want to do is, again, build a better tracking experience. The customer experience doesn't end when the product is shipped. The carrier is the visible link between your product and the customer. The delivery and returns experience is the last thing a customer is going to remember. So make sure that you incorporate the tracking experience, and not just in the delivery, but into the returns, because the customer wants to know, hey, did you get the product back? Am I getting my money refunded? They worry about these types of things. So your job is to take the anxiety and stress off of your customer's plate and to make tracking seamless. And don't send them to a bunch of different sites to go figure out what's going on. So I think we have a little example of what you can do from a post-purchase experience perspective. Yes, this is an example of where you've bought something. You can then go to, in this case, Duluth Trading Company, and you can see, hey, this has been shipped from the client. You've got your initial request. You can sign up for additional notifications. You can shop for additional products related to what you've purchased. So now you have an experience that you're managing with your customer, and you're really controlling the conversation. You're not going to see a promotion for your products, your goods, or your upsells on a carrier site. This is something you should do, whether you do it through Pitney Bowes product that we provide, if you do it through a Narvar or Returnly, any of these companies. People have invested a great deal in managing the post-purchase experience, and you should look at these types of tools. It really makes a big difference, and more importantly, you've already spent the money acquiring the customer. You want to keep that customer. So you want to set expectations around tracking. You want to be able to make sure that you deliver on those expectations. And when the customer wants to get more information on what's happening, take them to a branded website that you control, and you put the information in front of your customer. Justin?
Yeah, the last thing I really want to point out here is it really does give the customer control, because you can see at the bottom of the screen there, I can choose if this is a really important thing for me, if I've got a meeting that I want to be having this component for, these clothes, things of that nature. I can choose to be texted. I can choose to be emailed. I can choose to be bothered more. But by default, I have one space to go in order to look at all my tracking.
So I hope everybody got that message. We'll spend a couple of minutes on the commercial. What are we doing together, Pitney Bowes and ProShip? Well, Pitney Bowes is proud to provide ProShip customers with tools and technology that allow you to meet the needs of your customers. So we are integrated into ProShip with our standard and expedited services from an outbound shipping perspective, both domestically and internationally. We also have standard and expedited return services that we offer through ProShip. If you're not familiar with Pitney Bowes, we are celebrating our 100th anniversary. We are the largest revenue partner to the United States Postal Service. We generated about 18 billion mail pieces. We also generated about $18 billion in revenue for the U.S. Postal Service. We handle a few packages, and we also provide digital shipping services for large marketplaces, large customers, and we enable quite a bit of global commerce. So, we have expedited delivery services, standard delivery services, and then, standard returns services that we can offer to all of our customers. So when you think about those return solutions, again, post-purchase experience. You want to start a return, you want to move a return, you want to process a return. We've got 2 decades of doing this. And this is one of the big areas of, as you think about shipping season, you think about what's coming very soon, you want to make sure that you've got a good returns process in place. Justin?
Okay. So yeah, so the ProShip part of this, let's face it, this is just one of the features, one of the carrier service options you want to make available to the logic so that you can ensure that you're getting the lowest cost. Your returns process, you want to make that available. You want to have a product like ProShip that can be connected to your return site, whether it's something you built custom or whether you're using an out-of-the-box solution that's integrated into your e-commerce suite, like we were talking about earlier. So ProShip can do that. We work with a very large number of the top retailers. We control nearly all of the intellectual property in-house to ensure that we can best support you. We have some very unique options, such as advanced date shopping, which help to do thousands upon thousands of calculations sub-second in order to find the lowest cost execution to meet or exceed your customer's expectation at the time you're executing that, meaning that we take the fulfillment duration into account of that. And of course, as I've been saying over and over, we really help to enable omni-channel fulfillment. So your warehouses, your stores, as well as your external partners, such as manufacturers and 3PLs. All right. With that, I think we can get to the fun part. We can get to the user interaction as well. Oh, Aaron, go ahead.
All right, that said, this question will go to both of you. It asks, has omni-channel retail strategy changed how retailers process returns?
The short answer is yes, dramatically. Let's face it, in the old days, returns, you would just print the return label for the warehouse you're at. You would get it back there. Now we have, now there's significantly more sophisticated return strategies. Maybe you have a particular warehouse that you are looking to return everything to. Maybe you're outsourcing your return processes, so you want to ensure that electronic goods go to this type of recycler, clothing goods go to another type of return specialist, and you have a set of goods that you actually want returned to your own warehouses. So a lot of that, not just because of omni-channel, but because of the fact that the returns process has changed at the same time as we're moving towards omni-channel, you have 2 sets of changes that are occurring at the same time.
I think it's really important for you to think about a couple of things, okay? So about 1 out of 4 products are returned from an e-commerce perspective. You know, that's sort of the standard in e-commerce now. And you know, if you're starting to see this increase in outbound sales, more people purchasing stuff for you, it also means increasingly returns are going to become more and more of a management challenge for you from a business perspective. Like everything, as things start to scale, you need to think about what are best practices. And I think to Justin's point, you're going to want to think about, are there ways for me to get a forward disposition or status of the product? Can I get a scan? Can I get the weight sooner so that I can know, yeah, I shipped out a 2-pound shirt or a 2-pound product, customer shipped it back, looks like it weighs 2 pounds. I got the scan from a carrier or from a mail and parcel center. Okay, I can decide based on the customer's profile to issue a return more quickly. Or, you know, and once that comes into the network, I can choose to wait until it's been received at a facility, somebody's opened it and inspected it, you know, but I can manage that experience. But I need to think about how much do I want to specialize that, right? Because a lot of customers that I've talked to hadn't really planned for the kinds of returns that are coming back to them. And now they've got a mess. So they're trying to quickly, you know, earlier this year, the people who were, you know, seeing this volume were like, hey, the outbound deliveries are important. That's my big headache right now, but I can see that I'm going to have a big headache for returns if I don't do something about it. So people have started putting in place specialization, better processes, maybe finding a partner who can manage those advanced returns for you, that processing of the returns for you. So I think it's an important thing for you to be thinking about, and look at the options that are out there.
Very good. Well, let's move right along, Justin. I've paired these questions because they go together, ask really the same thing. How are peak season surcharges expected to affect shipping allocations, and wondering how freight surcharges will impact retailer shipping?
So really what it comes down to, and this year is probably the most sophisticated set of peak season surcharges I've seen in my 20 years of writing shipping software. I will tell you that keeping an eye on your volume to the carriers is going to be one of the most important things. It's a little late right now to add carriers. However, we've already seen the major retailers try to combat the peak season volume, because the peak season volume is tiered this year, right? So if you're exceeding 110%, 200%, or 300%, there are different charges you're going to experience. So how are retailers fighting back on that? Well, they started last week with Prime Day. All the major retailers also came out with what we would normally consider to be Black Friday deals in October, and that is so that they get another 40-ish days to ship that volume, rather than trying to cram it in the 28 to 32 days between Thanksgiving and Christmas itself, therefore minimizing the amount of volume per week, still having impressive volume over the entire fourth quarter, but minimizing that any single volume they can in a given week to minimize those peak season surcharges. So again, there's a ton of data that's being used right now, and as those charges fluctuate, you need to be prepared to shift your volumes to wherever you are expending the least amount for those carriers. Rick, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, and I think that it's important to look at the mix of carrier services you're using and think through things carefully. If I double my volume, if I triple my volume, or if I if I go into tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 with these carriers who are going to charge me more when I hit those tiers, you need to sit down and do the math, right? And maybe it's you at the end of the day doing all of this yourself, or maybe you have a team, but it's important to sit down with whoever your team is and look at this and make sure that you're not sinking your business, because in some cases that extra $5 or $10 per transaction could be your entire margin on the product. So you just need to be careful about looking at that, looking at your forecast, managing it. And the carriers have started, stretching out shipping season. In fact, it's really funny. I was looking at a product on Best Buy, a set of products on Best Buy, Costco, and Amazon, and comparing the three of them over the last week. And one of the sites, not Amazon, they literally had like Black Friday. The messaging was the Black Friday messaging. They used the same infrastructure for Black Friday to make sure that their pricing matched Prime Day, but they said, this special will end on Black Friday, which is 10/14. I was like, wait a second. But yeah, they are stretching this out. Amazon has encouraged other retailers to do so, and run those promotions now. Get people thinking about buying gifts sooner. The more you can shift that volume forward, the less likely you are to hit your tiers. And almost everybody has a few carrier backup solutions in place. Many people have USPS as a solution, as a backup, especially for exception shipping to further out destinations, Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, APO, FPOs, and so forth. You should look at that as, maybe this is an outlet valve for some of the volume if you can't afford to take the extra $5 to $10 surcharge that UPS or FedEx are going to apply to you.
Rick, you just reminded me of something. I was on a conversation earlier today with some of my ProShip team members, and they mentioned that we've all heard of 7-day deliveries now, but 7-day pickup. Some of the carriers are now offering some of that. So if that's possible, please make sure that you are taking advantage of it and you've configured your systems to take advantage of it. What this means is rather than loading up multiple trailers for Monday morning, you actually load up a trailer on Saturday, a trailer on Sunday. So, all right, let's keep moving here, I guess.
Very good. All right, next question, Rick. Why don't you tackle this one first? How will the carriers, including USPS, handle peak shipping season?
Well, I think we've covered a little bit of this with the private carriers. They're trying to set expectations and control the amount of volume coming in. It's important to remember that there are caps in place. So one of the other things you have to manage closely is there a cap? Because the last thing you want to do is receive a bunch of orders and have them sit in a trailer for a full business day, or maybe wait over the weekend for that carrier to come back and pick up stuff because you've already exceeded your cap. So it's an important thing for you to manage. In terms of the Postal Service, there was a little bit of noise about 2 months ago where there were concerns about the Postal Service's performance. I can say affirmatively, we look at millions of transactions that are being processed daily and tracked on behalf of the largest marketplaces in the world. And, we can see that the Postal Service performance for priority mail, first class parcel, even for the deferred services, is back to where it was pre-COVID. So Postal Service is ready, is able to handle the volume now, and they've put in place a plan to not just handle the election mail that's coming in, it's a big area of focus for them right now, but also to handle the parcels that are going to be coming into their network over the next 2 months. So I think they're going to be in good shape. Justin,
right.
We got time for a couple more questions?
We do. Throw this one to you here. Regarding regional carriers, are they still an option to distribute volume above quota cutoffs?
If you split regional carriers into two groups, the majors and the smaller ones, the majors have pretty much all stopped adding volume this year. You will have to look at some of the smaller and some of the regionals with less coverage. That's the unfortunate thing. Yeah, it's a little late for the laser ships, the on-tracks, the DHLs.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's what I'm seeing too. And it's all about capacity planning, because those guys, they don't want to have bad customer experiences either.
All right. Final question of the day. Rick, we'll start with you here. What are some of the cost reduction ideas to optimize the return to spend for brands?
Well, there's two things that you need to think about when you're thinking about reducing cost for returns. The first one is how much does it cost to ship things? Obviously, people worry about that. That's first and foremost in most people's mind. But the real question is, how much of that merchandise value can you bring back on average, right? What I see is many retailers are getting 5 to 10 cents per dollar of GMV re-commerced. You really want to get that up to 65 cents. You want to return basically 2/3 of the gross merchandise value. You want to bring that back into your business. The way you do that is you make things more convenient for customers. And the first thing I would say is figure out a way to do a pickup from home, whether it's using a private carrier with a pickup solution, or use the U.S. Postal Service, who goes to every house every day. You should look at an option like that, because that's what customers prefer. And the easier you make it for your customer, the less trunk time you have, the less delays you have, the better you manage expectations, the more likely that customer is going to come back to you. So that's the thing I would focus on, is make it easier for your customers so that you can actually get more of that merchandise value returned to you. And frankly, a lot of those home pickup options, especially if you use postal, are going to be a lot more cost effective than a FedEx or a UPS. Justin?
Yeah, and the last thing I would say is to reiterate some of the things we said in some of our prior webinars. Make sure that you, if you can, modify your enterprise software stack such that you can start the refund process once a carrier actually has custody of that package and has weighed it so you can do some basic allocations. This means you don't care about how fast that actually gets back. You can use the lowest cost service possible for return. You don't have to expedite it back to yourself in order to expedite the refund process. And in your customer's mind, it will be the same. As long as they're getting that refund sooner, they're more likely to bring that money back to your brand.
All right, very good. Well, we will leave it on that note. And lastly, Justin, Rick, thank you both so much for sharing your expertise and experience with all of us. To all of you who are watching, you could have been many places this past hour. Thank you for being here. So this concludes our Pitney Bowes webinar. Have a great day, everyone. And with that, we are done.